Now, Sven, good afternoon. How are you doing? Welcome to Channel
I'm
Africa.
doing great. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really cool to talk to you guys.
Yeah, now I've had a couple of thoughts running through my mind, and one of
Okay.
which was, how do you transition? I understand where the book starts. You say that you know it was four friends, and you wrote yourself into the book. And I mean, like in the 20s, you were a musician and all that stuff. Now,
Yeah.
how do you marry the two, an accountant and you know writing?
I mean, the short answer is that you don't, right? It's very jarring, moving between the two worlds. And I think for a very long time, when I wrote for about 10 years before I managed to get published. I got picked up by Penguin. And in that time, I never told anyone I was doing it. It was kind of like a secret. And I would say I was flirting with depression in those years. It's really hard to sort of be in a day job that's very organized and then switch to doing this thing at night where you're so passionate about it, but it doesn't seem to be working out, which is kind of where my characters are in the novel. But what I learned after I got my big break and lightning struck, was that the two actually do go hand in hand together. If you're working as an accountant or whatever you're doing during the day, there's a lot of those qualities that really translate into the book world. And one of them is discipline. Just the way I approach art is, very constantly, almost like an accountant. I wake up every day early before I have to go to work, and I make sure that I write. And I even do some pretty nerdy things like keep a spreadsheet, with my progress, which is not cool at all. I probably shouldn't tell you guys that. But yeah, the two, you can make them work. And I'll tell you the one lovely thing about it, which I never thought of before, was that since I make a living doing the accounting thing, for me, art kind of remains pure, remains completely pure and no thoughts of money really. It's just love. Art is for me is just love.
All right. Now, in your books, you write a lot about love, right? Um,
Mm.
Tell me a bit. I mean, like, why love? Why the feeling and the con? And when I was researching you, I heard you in many other interviews talking about the kitchen. Tell me about it.
Well, love, I mean, love in many formats, right? So, like you said, I was feeling really alone when I first wrote this book, and
Hmm.
um, with my upbringing, I had a hard family life in my early years, and my friends were really family to me. And in this book, and in most of my work, actually, friendship is really the strongest form of love that I'm presenting. It's these friends that were really looking out for each other and wanting the best for each other. But it also goes, when I was a kid. I don't know how else to say this, then I put all of my chips in on love. If I was a gambling man, I put them all onto love and I bet everything. And when you're 19 years old, that's a recipe for disaster. And it was a disaster. But I'm kind of watching my characters do the same thing. And from what I can see, the only way to grow up is to really experience some true heartbreak, whether it be loss of friends or loss of the girl or guy that you love. And it's almost a necessary part of growing up, and not, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It will hurt, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So my characters are kind of going through this necessary loss period of their life. And there's something about doomed love in this period of your life when you're in your 20s that makes it all the more beautiful. It's really dangerous. It's heightened. It's kind of like when all the music you listen to when you were 20 probably means even more to you. You felt so strongly about it than the music you listen to now. There's something about us at that age where we just live wires, we feel everything. So I love writing about people at that age group. And I have a lot of compassion for them. They have to go through their ruin, but I will walk with them and protect them as much as I can as a writer, if that makes any sense.
All right. In the novel, you talk about there's a part where you talk about one of your friends, or is it the character who got a dog's heart? Tell me what's going on there.
Well, each of my characters has a problem, right? And this guy has had a heart transplant. Interestingly, when I was writing this novel, I met a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who who had a kidney transplant, and I talked to him a lot about it, and that's probably where the idea came from me. But he's had a heart transplant, but there's a rumor going around the bar that he's had a dog's heart transplanted into his chest, um, which was really just a fun metaphor to play with for the way that he loves his friends. You know, he loves them pure, without guile, without holding back at all, which is kind of the way that a dog loves a human. You know, and that's why these friends call themselves the Dogs of Vivo. You know, it's not actually, there are dogs in my novel, but these three friends call themselves the Dogs of Vivo, and they're kind of hoping that every dog will have their day.
All right. Now, you play a lot with friendship and dogs and so. What does the theme mean to you? The friendship part of it, or does
Man,
or are you talking about how dogs love and so on?
yeah, the theme. I had a group, like I said, I had a group of friends around me at that age, and they got me through such a hard time in my life. And when I write these things, I don't mean, like when you write a novel, some people might plan it, but I don't. I just start writing and see what happens. And when I'm writing, the themes almost surprise me, but um, it's almost a giant tribute to the group of friends that I had when I was younger. And a lot of them I don't know them anymore. You know, we spent a lot of time together when we were young, and we've drifted apart. But um, the love that remains between us will always remain, and I don't even know if some of them have read this book, but I love to think that they will one day, and that they'll see themselves inside the pages, because just because we're not together anymore as friends doesn't mean that they're any less my friends, and that they were any less special to me in that time where I really needed them, And I'm sure we've all got people in our lives like that, we've lost track of along the way, but there's a bond there that binds them together. So, there's a quote from Jack Kerouac, the writer. He says something along the lines of, he's always in love with those characters that burn brightly and never sleep, the wild ones. But I'm more interested in characters that are the other way around, characters that are overlooked and perhaps unseen on the page. And if you focus in on them, they're probably more interesting than some of those loud characters that are obvious. And I think that I'm paying tribute to those kinds of people who I feel like those are my people, and this book is for them.
All right, Sven, that was a nice conversation we just had. I'm afraid that we're gonna have to cut it a little short for today. Hopefully, we'll have
Okay.
you again in the studio and dig in deeper on this book. It's a very exciting novel.
Thank you. It's really cool talking to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Sven, author of the book called The Dogs of Vivo. And Sven, it was nice having you.